Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is directed by Tim Burton and stars Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Michael Keaton, and Jenna Ortega. After a family tragedy, 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter Astrid accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. If you saw my review for the first Beetlejuice, you know that I really enjoyed that film. I think it is one of Tim Burton's most creative and most innovative movies in his career. From the performances to the set design to the humor, everything about that first Beetlejuice film worked the way it needed to. It's not a perfect movie, but as a dark horror fantasy comedy, I think it was a really fun time, and I was kind of hesitant on there being a sequel, with there being now a plethora of sequels to literally every movie nowadays. So this one kind of got lost in the wind for me, though it has been in development for a while, and it has been a movie that has been talked about that Tim Burton wanted to do for a while. And so I guess you could say that this has been like something that's been a long time coming. But even then, I wasn't that well known into Beetlejuice when I was a kid, so I wasn't at that hype train. I just heard a lot of murmurs about it, you know? So it is kind of one of those surreal things from my childhood where I heard of a movie that I don't think would have ever been made, now being here. And what are my thoughts on this? Well, I had to say this was a pretty good time. I wouldn't say it's anywhere close to the original, but it is just as fun, just as entertaining, and just as well written as the previous film was. The characters here were very well realized, and I really do think that Tim Burton understood everything about what that made the first movie work. And it's not just Beetlejuice, it is the characters. It is the humor. It is the weird scenario that our characters find themselves in this afterlife setting that is very abstract, very German expressionist everywhere. Like, this is a dark fantasy world come to life from the mind of Tim Burton, with plethora of callbacks to the original in terms of settings and world building, while introducing new characters and new elements of this world that is very fun to watch. There's a lot of creative sequences that Tim Burton takes to good effect here to create something that feels wholly unique and vibrant. And speaking of vibrance, the color and cinematography in this film is immaculate. Even in the real world, all the colors pop out at you. The shots are beautiful, and the way it's all framed together and how it lingers on the characters in terms of focusing on their quirkiness or their attitudes towards one another. I think it does a good job at telling the story visually in many ways, and that's helped with some good performances by Catherine O'Hara, by Jenna Ortega, and especially Winona Ryder, who really does fit back into these same shoes, and I think she is once again fantastic here, as well as Catherine O'Hara. Jenna Ortega, being a new addition to this family ordeal, I think does a really good job here. There are elements of her performance as Wednesday, of course, here, but the difference is that Wednesday is literally, for the most part, completely emotionless, whereas here Astrid has a bit more emotions, has a bit more layers, which gives Jenna Ortega a bit more to do with this character. She never feels one note. She never feels like just a ripoff of Wednesday. It feels like a unique character in this world of Beetlejuice that just so happens to have a weird way of seeing the world, while thinking she's seeing the world normally, at least compared to her entire family, who are a bunch of weirdos, but then that weirdness is obviously transferred over to her, and she kind of wants to reject that because she's in conflict with her family due to a family tragedy that happens. And I think that element of the characters and how that connects them all together and pushes their characters forward, I think worked pretty well and had me care for each and every one of them. And as for Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice, he is just as fun here as ever. He has a bit more character and has a bit more going on in terms of the story. He is introduced much differently. We see him in a much different part of his life where he's just running things just the way they've been for a while and is not much of an active character until something happens, and you feel like despite him being a jokester and a clown of sorts, not taking everything seriously, he's taking this specific thing that is related to Maria Belushi's character. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, ma'am. That character that she plays, being the ex-wife of Beetlejuice, and how she wants revenge against Beetlejuice, puts him in a more active situation to where he is mainly desperate now, to where in the first film he just really wants to get out of the afterlife, but here felt like he needs to get out of the afterlife. So seeing him scheme his way through all this mess is even more interesting, as you're wondering what he's going to do that's pretty calculative. And I really like that aspect of the character that Tim Burton decided to explore. And I also like how he doesn't have Beetlejuice just in the whole picture the entire time. He's just in it as much as he needs to be. Like the original film, he progresses the story along in significant ways and is the focus of the film, and so everything revolves around him, and you never feel like Michael Keaton is phoning it in. He is just as excellent here as he was back in the 80s. It felt like he hasn't lost a single step in this performance. The production design is great, like always from a Tim Burton production. It is very stylistic, gothic horror. It felt like a return to form for Tim Burton in general. It felt like he has put something worth of passion into a story that he wanted to tell, and he told it the way he wanted to tell it. It is pretty violent when it wants to be. It is weird. It truly felt like a Tim Burton movie. And that is something that I haven't felt in terms of his movies for a long time. With this and his first 4 episodes of Wednesday, it seems like we're getting the old classic Tim Burton back once again. And I am very excited to see what his next project would entail, what he decides to do next, if he ever wants to keep making movies. I feel like he is still going to keep doing a few more. He's got a few more left in him, but it is just great to finally see a really fun Tim Burton film, which is something that I cannot say I have seen in terms of motion pictures since Frankenweenie in 2012. A whole decade. And we finally got a good ass Tim Burton film that I can highly recommend. I'm going to give Beetlejuice a B+. My camera cut off at the end of this review, so you're just going to get the audio of me saying thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.